or how
Yeah,
yeah,
so
I
I
see they
think,
just tag last minute. Yeah.
is it there? Yeah, I think we are
Yeah, yeah.
live right now. Perfect. So,
We are live.
we are live for the
Oh yes, we
last
are live.
master chat for 2020. Well, actually, for the New York show, because I think we're going to do this again coming up in the next show. But I'm excited to have Ansgar Shin and the one and only Fluke with us. And now, Ansgar, you work at the library in Toronto, right?
Yes, that is
And
correct.
Ansgar, you're at the Coffee Project in New York City.
Yes.
Uh, I
No,
Fluke.
that's
You
me.
mean?
That's me. You just say
Oh, you
Asgard.
said
No,
my
that's me.
name.
Oh, did I flip it?
Yeah, you just say. Yes.
Well, no, Fluke, you were at the Coffee Project in New York City. Yes.
Yeah,
And
that is it.
you're both very accomplished latte artists, and I'm really excited to talk to you today. Before we get into our conversation, we do, of course, have to thank our sponsors. The Barista series from Pacific is an amazing, amazing product. I always talk about it on my show, so it's no different here. I recommend them whether they were a sponsor or not. I just naturally do because their product lends itself perfectly to latte art, flavor balance, and they just make it for baristas. And so you get happy baristas, you get happy customers with the Barista series. And we especially wanted to thank Slow Pour, our sponsor Slow Pour, for supporting today's master chat and building a community around the craft of latte art for very many years. Always a ubiquitous presence at the competitions. In fact, most pitchers that we see people using these days are slow pour, and I'm always shocked to see if anybody has one that's not slow pour these days. So beyond supplying the best latte art pitchers on the market, Slow Pour features the latest and greatest brew gear to fuel coffee passion. And our guests today, Ansgar and Fluke, will receive the newest Origami Air S, a Chestnut C2 Max Grinder, and the Origami Barrel Flavor Cup to help them stay caffeinated on the road to Coffee Fest. So, Slow Pour wishes both of the competitors the best of luck in New York City. And we love you, Slow Pour, so much. Thank you. Well, guys, I'm excited, like I said, to talk to you all about latte art. And it's one of those areas that I think hooks a lot of us in the community. And then our careers kind of blossom from this fascination. So we'll get into that a little bit. But I guess, starting with you, Ansgar, what got you hooked into the whole latte art thing? Maybe it has to do with how you got into coffee, but specifically latte art.
Yeah, it was. So in Canada, I was working. My first coffee job was the Canadian equivalent of Starbucks, which was called Second Cup,
Hmm.
and I was doing like the old traditional style way of making coffee with scooping up the foam, putting it in the cup, and then pouring it in the old traditional way. And then one time I saw that they released an ad or a banner with like latte art with the hearts on it. And I was so mesmerized at how they did it. I asked my boss at the time to teach me, and he had no idea how to do it. And so I contacted the headquarters and I found the gentleman who was doing those pours, and I reached out to him, and that's pretty much what started the whole um, journey for me.
Mm.
That's what really hooked me in there. And then at the same time, the customer response kept me going as well. People were mesmerized. Oh my god, it's so beautiful! Like, oh, like this is the best. You're an artist. You're an artist. So that kept resonating with me, and I thought, oh yeah, maybe I am an artist. Maybe that is something I'm good at. So then I kept doing it, and here I am, still doing it.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny. You don't really get people saying those types of effusive, praises around pour overs or just Americanos. So latte art is really, it makes you feel good when you pour it, not just when you're pouring it, but serving it. It's like I want more compliments.
Yeah, and I guess the instant gratification of seeing the art form instantly is, it's like instantly hooking for me. It's
Hmm.
just because you could see it being made on the spot and it's there. It's the immediate reaction definitely um, gets me going, excites me for sure.
Nice. What about you, Fluke?
Yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah, my point is kind of like in the opposite way as him. So let's say I started a coffee 7 years ago, right? And then I feel like latte was cool. So let's just make it. It was cool. I was just want to make it. But yeah, let's get to the point that I become professional latte artist in the competition. So in the past 2 years, let's say 3 years ago, I moved to US as a immigrant, like let's say a foreign people, right? Funny story. I trying to get a job. Basically, I just want a job, right? So I sent my resume everywhere, every single coffee shop, not every single, more than 20 shops. I swear to the God, more than 20 shops in New York City. And yeah, I don't get any phone call at all. Yeah, it kind of funny story that people say, oh, you see the resume name, right? My first name is Pia Put, right? I'm not sure you remember my first and
Hmm.
last name, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I go by Full is easier. So when people see the resume of the guy named, let's say John, I was like, oh, this guy might be a professional barista. And how about me, my resume, Pia Putt? Oh, what? What? Pia Putt? Can this guy even speak English? Yeah. So I have to get to the thing that prove to people that I know how to make coffee. That's why I start competing in latte art to kind of like, I want to say show off, but yeah, it's kind of like a little more too aggressive. Yes, to just show people that I know how to make coffee, and that's how everything started in US. After that, I found out the community is great. It's amazing how big it is community is and how people love each other. I'm so lucky about that. So that is kind of like a thing that keep motivating me, keep engaging me to make a latte art every day. It just started from I just want a job in coffee shop. Yeah,
Mm.
but it went this far from that.
Did it work? Did you, being in latte art like get you more recognition and the jobs that you wanted?
It's kind of like when you got into the interview, or at least you know someone that, oh, I know this guy. He competing. He know how to make the art. Like he must know how to make coffee, something like that.
Sure, and
Yeah.
I'll bet that anybody who sees a barista who is passionately pursuing something that is within their job description, like they're making coffee, hopefully smart employers will see that as the seed of something that could grow into other areas of the bar, which a lot of people worry about focus too much on latte art. But I find that in our conversations, it's usually the opposite. Like you do it, you have a lot of positive impact that latte art has on other areas of your life. Um,
Mm.
and I guess for both of you, I'm curious about when did you find yourself confronted with the idea that you needed to not only focus on latte art, but take what you were learning and apply it other places? When did you personally come to that realization?
Do you want to go
Interesting.
first, Fluke?
You can go first. It's fine. You can go first. You can go first. It's totally
So
fine.
the question was, when did I realize to apply what I learned in other places?
Yeah, so you pursue latte art is so fascinating, and then
Yeah.
when did you decide that this is something that is really fueling more than just my desire to pour latte art. It's fueling other things besides latte art, the way I work, the way I serve, things like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I guess for me it was the realizing all the small steps that it takes to make good latte art. And so from preparing espresso to perfectly steaming milk to finishing with customer service, I realized that I guess it's the whole package that makes latte art good, because you can have bad latte art and good latte art. And so realizing the techniques that I need to make with good latte art, and I guess this happens when you move to another shop to make coffee, because I've worked at a few different coffee shops, and each setup is slightly different.
Hmm.
And so there are certain, I guess, fun theories and techniques that are somewhat universal that I try to apply at different places. And then finally, at competition, I guess it kind of all happens when luck meets preparation, I guess, with all that, with everything that I learned from making coffees at my shop and other shops, and then going to here, I guess it all just adds up for me. So I
Hmm.
hope that answered your question.
Totally. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I guess the
What about yourself and your journey to sort of,
That yeah.
yeah.
For me, it's more like a training side of the perspective. Let's say you were talking about when we were in different shop, right? But for me, it's more like when you are in one place. Like let's say you work at a shop, you're making latte art every day, and how can I grow up? And for me, I'm really into community, like in coffee community, latte art community. So I feel like in the past few years, I gained a lot from them. My my thought is how can I give back to the community, right? That's why I step out on bar a little bit and focus more on training. So when I go out and train people, I feel like I really give back to the community. So I make people in the community have improved their skill. I feel better, and also in the past 2 years because of COVID, right? Things happen. I see a lot of people like struggling at their shop, they're struggling in their business. Some people lost their jobs, and I feel like how can I use this knowledge and skill to help these people? I think that might be my realization point that I feel like I have to use my skill to help people, not just me making latte art behind the bar, not anymore. It's about how my latte art can help the other people.
That's really interesting. Yeah,
mhm.
you
Yeah.
have a lot of people during the pandemic who a lot of companies were reaching out to their customers because the only way they could reach out to them was through digital, online coffee classes and things like that. And it seems like that's really continued. And I wonder, in general, like the pandemic really kind of refocused a lot of us. So it slowed down the competition. I remember being in New York 2020 in March, just as things were getting ready to, throw down, and it was just pandemonium, obviously. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as competitors with this focus, Fluke, you were just mentioning this, how it changed your perspective. Like, how did it really impact you as professionals during that time and refocus your energies or give new meaning to it?
Uh, yeah, for me, you're talking about like how that like
Yeah, how did it
particularly
impact
circumstance
you?
impact my. Oh, it changed a lot. Yeah, honestly. Yeah, first of all, I start practicing more seriously that time, and I feel like being behind the bar and make a drink for customer is just. And also like the way that customer came to us and they talk to us, everything is just like completely different. So it impacted me a lot. Like first of all, we're talking about a normal Tuesday cup, right? So you have to like kind of like me be more flexible, like be more flexible to pour in a to go cup. You can pour in different type of cup. So I have to practice a little more in terms of that. And yeah, and the competition, right? Everything else kind of shift. Instead of me having coffee fest like every March, June, and then August, and then November, that not happen. 2021 is just so weird. Like competitions happen like 4 times in 3 months. So in terms of like preparing to compete and also work in the shop to serve customer, it's kind of like everything was changed. So for me, I would say the most important part is about the preparation and be more flexible. It's not just like, oh, I want to wake up in the morning, go into the shop, make my latte art, and sell to the customer anymore. it's all about you have to prepare a lot of things that's going on. Yeah, I would
Right.
say that professionally impact how I thought, and it completely shifted my perspective.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, I guess for me, for the pandemic, for my coffee career, it was kind of a blessing in disguise. I guess I was getting pretty burnt out in making coffee, and so not making coffee for during the pandemic, it was a nice break. But then I started to get the itch, like I was missing making coffee, and so I ended up getting my own espresso machine. So that happened during the pandemic, and then I just started making coffee at home and just trying to keep the tools sharpened, I guess. And it was fine for a little bit, but then I realized that I missed making coffee for people, and
Hmm.
so and I don't know why, but posting latte art photos and all this stuff, it just didn't seem like it didn't have much meaning anymore. Pre like post pandemic, just because everything that was going on, and so
Hmm.
that was one thing. I took a bit of a back burner off social media, and just started focusing on connections with people, just like with meaningful connections, and it definitely helped revitalize my passion for customer service um, and yeah, and just making customers happy with latte art, and realizing that it's the you're realizing that ever since the pandemic happened, people have been appreciating much simpler things, and the appreciation for latte art has increased. Not only for latte art, but also just the craft of making coffee
Hmm.
has definitely increased. So now I've noticed customers are more curious about how to not only just make latte art, but brew good coffee as well. And so that really, I guess, inspired me in a sense that, okay, people want to learn, and the education level is slowly increasing amongst consumers and baristas.
Yeah. Well, I love how it came full circle for you in how you were hooked on latte art because of how you had those reactions from customers, and it was all about that interaction and how you're now kind of back to that, that place where it's all about the back and forth with real people and serving them coffee. That's really awesome. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, that's still great. Make people happy.
I mean, it's one of the few normal things that people can do still is go out and buy a cup of coffee and still see latte art and be on their way.
Hmm.
So one of the few things that's somewhat left unchanged during this pandemic and stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
people still love it. And the skills you
yeah,
develop as a competitor, I mean, of course, it goes into other areas, but the latte art that you pour great latte art every time. I mean, well, okay, most of the time, we pour great latte art on the bar. Sometimes, like the world will never know the bad latte art that champion latte artists pour, and there's just like, I'm not going to post that on Instagram. I'm not. That's to go. We're putting a lid on it, and
oh my god, the amount of pores that you probably are not seeing before that photo is taken. It's probably a
oh,
whole lot.
it's disturbing. We need to start a trend on Instagram, cut like the dark web of latte art or something. Yeah.
Just it'd be messy.
Yes.
That.
A lot of messes.
When you're pursuing competition, and like I said, you both been competing for a long time, and done very well. I know, Fluke, you just won your first competition last year in Atlanta, so congrats. That was really awesome to see.
Thank you.
And you know, along the way, there's a lot of frustration and a lot of moments where people just are tested, I think, and it seems silly that something like that would test you. But I'll tell you what, little things can test you in the grand scheme, right? I got really pissed off today about Wordle, and so uh, you know, latte art's no different.
Okay.
So the question, I guess, is what for for each of you, what is the one thing or a memory you have of some kind of a challenge that you had in competition that you overcame that's really kind of stands out to you in your competition career?
I let you go first.
Uh, I guess the number one thing for me is, well, two things is shaking and nausea. So
Hmm.
sometimes when I'm pouring, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, why am I shaking so much? Like this shouldn't be happening. And then after I'm done, the worst nausea possible ever. Just like I have to be in the fetal position and just not be in pain for like 15 to 30 minutes and then it goes away. And how I overcame that was uh, number one is the mental aspect of it. So um, visualization is a big thing for me. So trying to just pretend that it's just another day in the office, even though it's very difficult to do, but it's just trying to imagine that you're just at your comfortable spot, you're at the bar and you're just making drinks for customers. And I found that just like repeating that mantra and being in tune with your body helps you kind of zone out and be in the moment, which I found that to be helpful. For the nausea part, I still haven't yet to figure that out. I just deal with the pain. I
Mm.
take a little bit of Pepto, a little bit of Tums to help with that, but that is one thing that is inevitable for me that I have to deal with. But the first part with the shaking is definitely, yeah, the visualization and practicing. So just I've noticed the compared to my last coffee fest and my first coffee fest, the performance was drastically different, and it's just through practice, just going through it, being like, okay, we're here again. It's just another time, another normal run. Let's do it, and then let's go. Let's win.
Mm.
And last thing is just to have fun, I guess, even though that's kind of like a generic thing, but just try to smile and not focus so much on winning.
Mm.
Yeah.
Enjoy the time.
Enjoy the time. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I have
Yeah,
to win. I have
agree.
to win. I have to win. And you kind of get stuck in that loop of just like, I need to win. I need to win. And when you're just like not thinking about that, and you're like, okay, let's just do it. Let's just go for it. I found those results tend to be much more rewarding.
Some mind tricks there. That's some
Yeah.
pro stuff right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. True, true. Yeah.
Fluke, what about
Yeah,
yourself?
that is very good answer, by the way. I'm not. I mean, after competing for a few years, I'm not having a problem with checking. I mean, I still check, but not as much as when I first compete. I would say my biggest problem is before I'm competing. I kind of have like that mindset of perspective of I want to win, I have to win, I have to win. So I practice really hard until I get to the point that it's getting worse. Yeah. I'm not sure you guys having that problem, but I feel like most of the artists or musicians, right, before they go into the competition, they have pretty much the same problem. Like they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again until they're mentally tired and they think about I have to win. Let's say the competition is tomorrow, right? Let's say, oh, I have to win.
Hmm.
I have to go tomorrow and I have to win. So I have to do my best. I have to build my muscle memory, kind of cut all the race time earlier, everything, trying to basically like trying to perfect the craft, right? To create the perfection. But yeah, that makes my mental really really bad before competing. Like keep thinking about I wanna win. But yeah, as can say like you just have fun. That's the point. So the way I overcome it is like when I get into the point that I feel like oh I'm satisfied with this practice and let's take some break. Yeah, sometimes you need to take a break. You can't just like keep doing over and over again, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, let's say I practice 6 cups, 12 cups, 18 cups, and then I feel like my core getting bad. I'm not gonna like okay, I'm not gonna think about why it's getting bad, right? But yeah, just take some breaks. grab some water, maybe going out, get some fresh air. I think that helped a lot. And then you can go back and practice maybe be more motivated. Yeah, because I used to be like practice and then oh it's get bad. Why? What does happen? Why is bad? Why my voice bad? Let's just figure it out and practice again. And it's getting worse, 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 and get to the point that you're like forget about it. I'm done. Yeah, that's not work.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah.
feel like caution you're practicing and kind of like be more organized and that gonna help a lot in terms of practicing. But when you actually go on in the state, just have fun, have a good time, do your best, and you won't regret it. Yeah, I think that will be my how I overcome that problem. Yeah.
It's all very good advice that you're both giving there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when you were talking about that fluke, I was just imagining back when I was competing. Um, I would just gallons of milk over and over again. Like just at least 3 gallons at a time, and that's a lot of drinks, and you get terrible right in the middle of that set. And it's really hard to overcome that. And sometimes I wouldn't, and you would just get really down on yourself. So that's good advice to take a break. It's not quitting, it's
Mm-hmm.
strategic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you're both talking about that, there's a as a judge of the competition for a long time, I've gotten to see a lot of people's mental game, start to get employed. Like everyone's got a stance, like Donald Perdomo has the power stance, and barefoot barista, and everyone has just like a thing that they do. And one of the things I know that's true about when you practice, if you practice just one way of doing it, that design, if you're in competition and you veer from that one way, it freaks you out. Like now everything is a chain reaction. All of a sudden, oh, that's going wrong. That's going wrong. It's like a panic attack in your pitcher,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's
Yeah.
like you have to give yourself a little bit of flexibility even in the practice because you're going to not do exactly what you practiced in competition. You want to psych yourself out.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the competition is gaining new applicants all the time. Coffee Fest. And, especially during the pandemic, a lot of local folks have been trying their hands at it. And we have the pros, such as yourself, who are or like familiar faces. And I think they would like some advice. You just gave some advice, I think, about what to do in competition and when you're practicing. But if
Yeah.
somebody's really desirous of just getting started, either in latte art in their coffee bar or just competition, what would each of you give to them as advice? And Scar, we can start with you.
Um, I guess so. Like for just for everyday bar, I guess for me is to quality check just to make sure your foam is consistent, your espresso is pulled properly and evenly. Just making sure all the basic steps of being a barista are mastered. I would think because then that becomes second nature. It's one thing you don't need to worry about. I think when it comes to ramping up towards competition season, I think it'd be good to try to emulate the setting you're in. So whether if it's Coffee Fest or SCA style competition, I just know like researching the rules, regulations, the way that it's operating, and then try to do like mock competitions with people. Try to find other baristas in the community and to compete with them, and try to make it a team effort as opposed to trying to do it all by yourself. Um, so yeah, that would be my recommendation: is master the basics, and when it comes to competition season, search for the right teacher and the right people to help you uh, progress and master your routine or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Well, a quick follow-up question on that,
Yeah.
Ansgar, is there's a lot of people to look to for an example in latte art. How how
Mhm.
how should I look? Who should I look for? How should I decide who to follow and learn from? Because I think if I follow everybody and try to learn from everybody, I might not learn anything.
Oh, that's true. I would say go to the go to. I would tell the baristas to go to your coffee shops and see the baristas pour latte art and um. Well, number one, I would say try to look for champion winners or people who are actively competing in in the scene,
Mm,
because chances are there's like two or three shops that are actively doing it. So I would say go to the places that are accredited somehow, whether it's through competitions or training and stuff, and just politely learn and ask and learn, because I'm sure they'll give you a lot of pointers and a lot of advice pro
mm-hmm.
bono. Um, yeah, yeah. That's what I would do that. Like look for those kinds of people. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
iron sharpens iron, as they say. So look for the best and try to learn from the best.
Yeah, well
Yeah.
said.
Nice. Yeah. Right. Me.
Yeah, you.
All right. Cool. This is really true. All right. It's kind of funny too. Because I almost tell everyone, like every barista who I know, every like even the guy who asked me for advice in competition, right? So I tell him like, oh, do you know why I'm good at latte art? You know why I won that coffee fest? Pretty simple. My bar is clean. And I was like, what? They thought I'm joking, right? So I'm like, yeah, everybody at the shop, I keep telling people like, clean your bar, man, clean your bar. My bar is
Yeah.
clean. So pretty much same thing when I went to Coffee Fest and I use this. It's not this. I don't want to say technique. It's not a technique at all. It's just like my naturally habit that clean the bar because I kind of feel a little not anxiety, but I just feel like it look annoying to me to see like a lot of coffee ground or some like random dirt on the machine when I make a drink and pour coffee. So I just tell another guy. So when I went to Puerto Rico last week and this guy first time competing and I met him, I was like, you know what? Do you want to know why and how I won Coffee Fest last year? Because I cleaned that machine. I cleaned the station. So it's like a trick that you can actually take advantage on cleaning, even though it's just like 10 seconds or 5 seconds. But when you clean it, you actually feel it. You feel the setup. You feel like you know, like, where is it? Like, this is grinder here, E1 here. You wipe out a tray. You actually touch it and feel the equipment. And you will feel like, oh, now it's clean. I'm happy. That's a fight. I'm ready. It just made me feel ready when everything is clean and like, yeah, I don't want to be like, oh, coffee everywhere and all right, let's go, start time. Yeah, I just like, no, I don't want to do that. When everything is, it just basically just make everything ready. Yeah, just feel ready. When you feel ready, let's go. Yeah, so that
Yeah.
is my trick of coffee base. Just clean it. Yeah, and then I use this joke the same in the bar, right? Then people ask me like, oh, how did you practice latte art? I'm like, first of all, clean your bar. That's the first thing you need to
Mm-hmm.
do.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. And I've not heard that from latte artists yet. And you know as well as I do is that bar gets pretty destroyed sometimes. And in our
Mm-hmm.
orientations, I'm always talking about cleaning the bar. But what you just said makes a whole heck of a lot of sense because especially that you're in an environment that is foreign to you, and if you start doing things that are familiar to you, like cleaning the bar, hopefully that's familiar to you, um, then it starts to feel like home, and you feel a connection to it. So I love that you brought that up. Like I had never thought about that. So yeah, that's awesome. Um, yeah, I feel like we could talk a lot longer, but we're at our time, and
Oh
I
wow.
really did enjoy talking with you both. Um, so I guess your handles here are on the screen on the lower right hand side for both Anscar and Fluke. I would encourage people to follow them on Instagram if you want to see some examples of high end latte art that'll make you be like, oh, you're an artist. Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Ah!
I love it.
Well, best of luck to you both in New York, and I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit more here. And I know that people listening to this have gotten a lot of benefit from your advice. And a big thank you to Barista Series and Slow Pour for their sponsorship, and of course, Coffee Fest. And we'll see you all later.
All right.
Thank you
Thank you
again,
so much,
Chris.
Chris, for
It was
having
really
us
fun.
today.